Sergeant Elias Ward stood at attention in the Hall of Concordance, boots polished to mirror sheen, spine straight despite the ache that never quite left his lower back. He had earned that ache on Caro's Ridge, where gravity ran heavy and the sky burned green with plasma fire. He had earned it pulling 3 coalition soldiers, 2 human, 1 Threxian, out of a collapsing trench while enemy artillery chewed the mountain apart. So when the summons came from High Command, Elias had no doubt what awaited him. A medal, a citation, maybe even a promotion if the admirals were feeling generous. Instead, he was waiting under a vaulted ceiling of alien crystal while 6 species argued quietly behind a semicircle of floating hollow sigils. The Grand Arbiter finally turned toward him. Sergeant Elias Ward of the Terran Union Expeditionary Forces, it intoned, voice layered with harmonics that made translation shimmer. Your conduct during the Caro's engagement has been reviewed. Elias swallowed. Yes, Arbiter. You demonstrated exceptional adaptability under multi-species command, disregard for personal safety in defense of allied forces, and the Arbiter paused, eyes flicking briefly to another counselor, a statistically anomalous resistance to psychic stress. Elias frowned. That last part was new. In light of these factors, the Arbiter continued, the Council has determined that you are unsuited for conventional commendation. For a heartbeat, Elias thought he'd misheard. Sir, you are instead assigned a custodial and operational role, the Arbiter said. Effective immediately. A glyph flared to Elias's right. The air shimmered, and someone stepped forward. She was taller than him by a head, her frame willowy but dense with unfamiliar musculature. Her skin held a pearlescent hue that shifted between silver and soft blue, depending on the light. For eyes, 2 primary, 2 smaller set higher on her temples, regarded the chamber with open wariness. Thin, translucent filaments drifted behind her like a living cloak. This is Lyreth of the Celari Continuum, the Arbiter said. Former Strategist Prime. Currently displaced. Elias stared. You're assigning me an alien general? Lyreth's gaze snapped to him. I am not a thing to be assigned, she said sharply, her translator adding a faint chime to her words. The Arbiter raised a placating limb. You are assigned to each other. Sergeant Ward will act as your liaison, security escort, and, given certain political realities, your legal sponsor within coalition space. Elias felt the floor drop out from under him. With respect, sir, I'm infantry. I carry a rifle. I don't babysit diplomats. Lyreth's smaller eyes narrowed. Nor do I require babysitting from a bipedal primate with delusions of importance. The Arbiter ignored them both. This assignment is not optional. You will depart within the hour. The transport was silent except for the hum of its engines and the faint rustle of Lyreth's drifting filaments. Elias sat strapped in across from her, arms crossed, jaw tight. So, he said finally, want to tell me why a strategist prime needs a human minder? Lyreth studied him for a long moment. Because I oppose the armistice, she said. And because your species terrifies the Council. Elias barked a humorless laugh. We're not that scary. You are, she replied calmly. You adapt too quickly. You form emotional bonds across species lines without cognitive overload. And when faced with impossible odds, you do not retreat when logic dictates you should. He thought of Caro's Ridge. Of the Threxian engineer screaming as the trench collapsed. Of not even hesitating. Why me? He asked more quietly. Because you looked directly at a Celari mine probe, Lyreth said, and did not break. Elias stiffened. He remembered the moment, a pressure behind his eyes during a joint briefing, a whisper of thoughts brushing his mind. He'd assumed it was combat stress. That probe, she continued, would have reduced most species to catatonia. You experienced discomfort. Guess I've had worse days, he muttered. For the first time, one corner of Lyrath's mouth twitched upward. Their destination was an outpost world on the edge of Coalition space, a neutral ground where unwanted problems were quietly shelved. Elias quickly learned that custodial role meant far more than escort duty. Lyrath was under constant observation. Her communications were restricted, her movements logged. Elias, by contrast, was given broad discretion. "Why give me the leash?" he demanded during their third day, after security drones shadowed her but not him. "Because they trust you to follow orders," Lyrath said. "And because they believe you will restrain me if necessary." Elias stopped walking. "I don't restrain allies." She turned, filaments flaring faintly. "Then you are either dangerously naive, or exactly what I hoped for." That night, the outpost went dark. Sirens wailed as hostile signatures breached the perimeter, remnant forces from the war, drawn by rumors of a Selari mind worth stealing. Elias grabbed his rifle on instinct, motioning Lyrath behind him. "They're here for you," he said. "They will not take me alive," she replied, voice steady. "Good," Elias said, chambering around, "because I don't plan on letting them." The battle was chaos, corridors filled with smoke, alien warforms crashing through bulkheads. Elias moved like he always did, forward, aggressive, impossible to pin down. Lyrath stayed close, her presence a strange anchor amid the noise. At one point, a psychic shockwave rippled through the hall, dropping several attackers screaming. Elias staggered but stayed upright. Lyrath stared at him in awe. "You should be unconscious." "Yeah," he panted.
"People keep saying that."
Together, they reached the command center and triggered the distress beacon. Reinforcements would come, but only if they held.
They did.
In the aftermath, as medics swarmed the outpost, a new message arrived from the council. The Arbiter appeared on screen, expression unreadable. "Sergeant Ward, Strategist Lyrath, your actions have complicated matters." Elias crossed his arms. "Funny way to say, saved your station." Lyrath stepped forward. "The threat you feared is already here," she said to the Arbiter. "Humanity is not a weapon you control. It is a force you must stand beside." Silence followed. Finally, the Arbiter inclined its head. "The assignment stands. Permanently." Elias exhaled. "So, no medal?" The Arbiter's gaze softened, just slightly. "You misunderstand, Sergeant. This is your medal." Lyrath turned to him as the transmission ended. "It seems," she said, "that you are stuck with me." Elias smiled tiredly. "Could be worse." She studied him, then extended a hand, her slender fingers glowing faintly. "Then let us make them regret underestimating us." Elias clasped it firmly. For the first time since the war ended, he felt like he'd been assigned exactly where he belonged.